La Lifa Jour.
This happened a few years ago. When I started university, I began living alone in a quiet residential neighborhood. The place was perfect, close to a station where express trains stopped, with plenty of great places to eat and hang out nearby. A river ran through the area, and along it there was a walking path. People often jogged there or walked their dogs, day or night. Having been part of the track team in high school, I used to jog there regularly. The walking path had two sides, the west and the east. The west side was bright and lively, always full of people, but the east side, almost no one ever walked there, especially at night. It was dark, with only a few streetlights scattered about. I always thought that's probably why people avoided it. The terrifying experience happened during July of my third year in university, on a full moon night. That evening, I was jogging along the river as usual, music blasting through my headphones. The full moon must have made me feel a little too energetic, because I picked up my pace and for some reason felt an urge to run on the east side. Crossing the bridge, I switched to the east side and began running. At first, I felt something was off, but I couldn't quite figure out what. After 15 to 20 minutes, I finally realized what was wrong. I hadn't seen a single person. It was unusual, but what really sent chills down my spine was when I glanced across the river to the normally busy west side. It was completely empty too. The uneasy feeling grew stronger. I decided to speed up and cross back to the west side once I reached the next bridge. That's when I saw them. In the distance, I spotted two figures, a mother and child. They were walking ahead of me. As I got closer, about 50 meters away, I saw the mother suddenly smack the child's head, and the child crumpled to the ground. Is this child abuse? Or is the kid just being scolded? I stopped running. I didn't want to interfere unnecessarily, so I sat on a nearby bench to wait for them to move on. But when I looked at them again, I froze. The mother had mounted the child and was shaking the child's head violently, slamming it against the ground. This is abuse, I thought, standing up instinctively, but my body wouldn't move. For what felt like 10 long seconds, I stood there, unable to move. Nothing. Before I could process what was happening, the mother grabbed the child's hair and began dragging the limp body toward me. I wanted to run. I had to run, but my legs were paralyzed, as if I had forgotten how to move. When they finally reached me, the mother, who had been staring at the ground, suddenly snapped her head up.
Don't you bien me.
With a voice that could shatter glass, she screamed. At that moment, I knew these two were not alive. The mother's eyes were pitch black, not just her irises. Her entire eyes were hollow, swallowed by darkness. And the child was skinny and pale, his skin a sickly purple covered in red, rash-like sores. The smell that came from them was unbearable, a stench so foul it made me nauseous, a smell I had never encountered before. The next thing I knew, I was sprinting. I ran with everything I had, my lungs burning. As I reached the station, a crowd of people was pouring out of the station gates. I pushed through them, desperate for the safety of human presence. Sometime later, I went drinking with a friend who had lived in the town since childhood. couldn't bring myself to tell him what had happened, but with a little alcohol in me, I asked, "Hey, do you know why the east side of the river pass is so empty?" My friend paused and then told me this story. "Do you know the bench on the east side? About 13 or 14 years ago, they found a little girl's body there. The night before, her mother called the police, saying her daughter hadn't come home. Turns out that the girl had snuck out to play by the river, slipped, and hit her head, killing her instantly. People living nearby said that on the morning she was found, her mother was at the scene screaming something over the body. The family had it rough. Her father had left, and the mother worked late into the night to provide for her daughter. Losing her daughter broke her. People say she went mad and died shortly after." As I listened to my friend's story, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the whole truth. The woman I saw, that child, they weren't just echoes of the past. I think the truth is something much darker.